What's up guys, my name is Bennett and this is Lethal Games. The original Maplestory was my first MMORPG and I've played it for many years. I was there through its ups and downs and its inevitable shift into the pay-to-win business model at the hands of Nexon. It's no secret that Nexon is known to pad its games full of microtransactions, and Maplestory was ground zero. But nostalgia has a way of making you do things you never thought you would do, and so here we are with Maplestory 2. The game has entered into a closed beta testing phase for the North American version, and the question is, should you play it? Contrary to the name, Maplestory 2 is actually a prequel to the events of the original Maplestory. It is a completely separate game, and this time in 3 dimensions rather than being a 2D side-scroller. Before we get into the gameplay, I want to talk a bit about the technical issues I had with the original Maplestory and how it compares to the sequel, because it was a huge annoyance for me. If you don't want to listen to this part, I'll leave a timestamp below where you can skip ahead. With that said, the 3 biggest technical issues for me in the original Maplestory was the client stability, poor optimization, and the lack of support for modern resolution. Maplestory was notorious for crashing, and even a decade after its launch, there was very little improvement. In fact, it might have gotten even worse. When the game did run, it suffered from occasional lag attacks server-wide, and there was considerable drop in performance whenever there was more than a couple of people in the map. This was the case no matter how good your computer was. And finally, something that is absolutely inexcusable is the lack of modern resolution support in 2018. Yes, the game engine was released over a decade ago, but there are plenty of games that are just as old that have been updated to support HD, 4K, and even ultra-wide resolutions. At the very least, I would expect 1080p support, but even that doesn't exist. However, I'm happy to report that Maplestory 2 addresses all these issues even in its closed beta state. Though the servers are probably not tested at full capacity, in the time I did play it, I've not disconnected once, and I did not experience any lag even in highly populated areas. And of course, modern resolutions are supported, so there's that. Technical issues resolved. Now let's get into the good stuff. The first thing anyone is going to notice is the drastic change in the graphical style. The original Maplestory is famous for being a 2D side-scrolling MMORPG. The sequel drops that entirely and goes for a blocky 3D aesthetic. After playing the beta, I can tell you that the game doesn't just add a dimension of depth. They've heavily added verticality to the environment as well. Not only can you climb and jump up cliffs, you can also equip flying mounts as well. All the blocks are technically floating, so it's possible for you to fall off the landmass into the abyss, which can get annoying sometimes. Flying mounts let you float across the map, which is nice if you want to avoid combat or quickly get to the other side. In all honesty, I was not a fan of what they've done graphically when I first saw the screenshots and videos of it. I have to say it does look a lot better in game. However, I still dislike the blocky nature of the environment, and I think they could have done a much better job with the artistic style overall. And speaking of styles, character creation has improved immensely. There are a good number of hairstyles and faces to choose from. They have enough choices to make you think twice, but not so many that you have to spend hours on the character creation screen. The best part is that the selection of hair and faces actually don't suck, so you won't be immediately compelled to get some NX. Each hairstyle has a full range of color options, and some even let you change their length and have additional sub options. As for classes, you've got 8 different classes to choose from in the beginning, 1 of each archetype. Keep in mind that unlike the original Maplestory where job advancement is a huge branching point in choosing your class specialty, that no longer exists in Maplestory 2. Instead, whatever class you choose at the beginning is what you get. I personally enjoyed the job advancement and progression aspect of the original Maplestory, and with the level cap at 50 during the closed beta, the skill trees and progression leaves a lot to be desired. As for the actual combat, I played both melee and range characters to get a feel of both. For range, I went with the archer. The skills felt good to use, the animations were fluid, and attacks felt impactful, but there wasn't much synergy between the skills, and some of them felt redundant and out of place entirely. But by far, the biggest issue I have with the range combat is the aiming, and it's mostly due to the 3D nature of the game. I found it very difficult and awkward to aim at things that you are directly facing, so basically anything diagonal. This is especially the case if you're using the classic keyboard setup with WASD or arrow keys to move. Using the mouse movement makes it a lot easier, but it's definitely not as clean and well done as other traditional MMORPGs. I'll also point out here that controller support is now available, so it might actually be easier on that. When I swapped to a melee class, I found the controls during combat a lot easier, but there was still a distinct lack of skill synergy, and there wasn't really any combos that played off each other. Hopefully things will change when you unlock more skills past the level 50 mark. One of the biggest changes they've done to the combat is remove the mana system and put in spirit and stamina. Spirit is a capped resource that regenerates over time, and it actually feels like a really good change in the early levels. You'll be able to sustain your spirit while you're spamming abilities without a sweat. Monsters will also occasionally drop spirit orbs that replenish your spirit, so there's no fear of running out. However, the system actually falls apart as you get to the higher levels. Monsters are no longer easy to kill, and they take a lot of skill spamming to take down. Part of the issue is that there are no spirit potions you can chug to replenish it, so you'll find yourself with no spirit and unable to use any abilities. I found this to be especially the case during longer boss fights, and it forced me to run around in circles while waiting for my spirit to regenerate. So essentially, spirits feel like a good change in the early levels, but a terrible one for late game, which is what most players will spend their time on. Stamina, on the other hand, is used exclusively for your movement ability, at least from what I can tell in the beta. I don't really see the purpose of stamina besides helping you preserve your capped spirit resource, but then again, if they just kept the mana system, they wouldn't have needed to add stamina in the first place. Definitely not a fan of these changes. As for leveling, Maplestory has always been known to be a grind fest. In the early days, the game was super slow and murdering literally thousands of mushrooms and pigs was the only way to progress. After the Big Bang update, they changed the EXP curve and I felt like it became way too easy to level. Maplestory 2 feels like they've finally found a compromise somewhere in between. I got to level 50 just by following the questline and didn't have to grind at all. They pace the game so that you level at the same rate that the main story quest progresses. However, I have heard that the beta EXP gain is actually inflated and may not reflect the actual game. I haven't been able to confirm this, so this current leveling experience may not reflect the reality when the game goes live. Since the closed beta was capped at level 50, I can't really comment on what the endgame is like. Another thing to note is that the cash shop was also not available for beta testing, and I can't say for sure what to expect. However, knowing Nexon and hearing some of the stuff from the Korean version, it's highly likely that there will be pay-to-win elements in the game. So should you play the game? I personally felt that the game was better than I expected, but I didn't have that high expectations for it. They definitely played the nostalgia card hard, keeping all the major towns of the original game and remixing the original themes to tug at your heartstrings. If you've played Maplestory before and you're curious about this, I don't see a reason why you shouldn't at least try it since the game is free. It'll definitely take you on a nostalgia train ride, if only for a moment. I don't think I'll be playing the game myself when it releases, as there will likely be better options at that time. Speaking of which, Bless Online is about to enter early access as well, and if you're interested in that, I'll likely have my first impressions video up a few days after it launches. If you have any questions about Maplestory 2 closed beta, let me know in the comments down below and I'll try to answer them. If you liked the video and want to see more gaming content, please smash the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. That's it from me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.